Previously on the Farmers of Thought show.
21st century and beyond, in the 4IR era, Fourth Industrial Revolution era, our nation is confronted yet with one standard that seems not to change, and that is the business that children will be born.
Mara, Chigarambok, Kugaramashambauda. Down south, in the land, the black rain, bees, and endangered species.
In the corridors of time, 2020, here from Farmers of Thought down south. Welcome one, welcome all.
We are not for sale.
The United Kingdoms of Africa. This is our African agenda, where we are seeking for a common voice as the African nation. We are not looking for another United States of Africa. What the United States would actually try to emulate our jurisdiction and governance structures according to the West, would rather have it as the United Kingdoms of Africa. Then in that way, we are able to restore the original, the authentic royal houses of Africa. And I think that in the midst of us looking for a common voice, we need to start looking as African leaders. How do we consolidate power? How do we come together militarily to have one voice as the military and have a seat at the military council if possible? We also need one marketplace where we can sell our goods and work together in terms of creating our own trade preferential areas and assisting countries that are going through their own turmoils. Of course, we know it is the intentions of the West. Better than that, we need our own academic system where we're developing our own children, teaching them more about our own history rather than celebrating the history of those that have gone ahead of us. Over and above education, we need our own diet and our own health systems. And all this must culminate into our indigenous intelligence in terms of knowledge. And how do we implement and utilize that for the building of the African nation? And until our African Union begins to think in terms of how can we commonize our problems so that we can commonize our solutions. The solutions are not far. They are as good as looking after our own vegetation, looking after our own environment, sharing what we have one with another, which is the typical African Ubuntu style of living. And by so doing, we're able to begin to sharing problems, sharing success stories together. And once we are united, the divide and rule will fall apart. And I think in the greater expanse of understanding, when brotherhood prevails, then the enemy is easily identified. We can be able to begin talking about the unity of the African nations under the United Kingdoms of Africa. The software is in place. We need men, foot soldiers, who can begin to stand up and be counted for the battle of the emancipation, reconstruction, and decolonization of the African mindset. Fuzijen, Chigaramboko, Mashambahuda, live on Farmers of Thought, down south, African solutions for African problems.
Maponga photography.